Alright, before we begin, a quick message. After almost 4 years, I'm back. I mean, obviously, you hear me talking to you right now. For those of you who don't know, which is probably everyone watching this video, I used to upload videos to this channel, but I've hidden away all those videos because, honestly, they were pretty bad. And now the world can finally be at peace. And I've decided to start my YouTube channel from scratch. Now I intend to focus on mainly video game related topics and maybe upload something non-video game related every once in a while. I don't know, we'll just have to see. But enough of that. I know why you're here. It's because your short attention span brain wants to be entertained. So, without further ado, your regularly scheduled program where I promise decent content but nothing more. Just decent. You can't set the bar that high for me. Video games. Ooh, if there's one thing I love, it's video games. They're like my second master. Video games, a great way to pass the time. Whether you're a kid or an adult, whether you play hardcore by yourself or more casually with your family, or both, video games are fun, and that is a fact. Video games have existed since the dawn of time, the 1950s, and the world was forever changed. For better or for worse, that's for you to decide. Guess which side I'm on. They have gone through some radical changes throughout the years, from arcade cabinets, to game consoles, to computers, to even being on our smartphones. It's hard to escape them, and there's one specific way to play that I favor above all others, and that's console gaming. Video game consoles are a great thing to have, with 3 big companies having a near triopoly over the console industry, and those companies are Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. Here's a brief history. During the video game crash of 1983 in the US, Nintendo arrived on the scene with their NES in 1985 during the third console generation. It was a success, and people credit the console as saving the entire gaming industry. Naturally, they continued making consoles and competed against the company Sega. This was how it went until the 5th generation when Sony arrived on the scene and partnered with Nintendo to create the Nintendo PlayStation. I know that sounds weird, doesn't it? An add-on to the SNES which took disc-shaped games. Nintendo backed out of the deal, which caused Sony to get really angry and release the Sony PlayStation on their own. Next generation, things got more interesting, and Microsoft released their first Xbox and pretty much kicked Sega out of the console war. And these big 3 have been duking it out ever since. And just look at what it led to. But like I said, what I told you is just a small, vague summary. There is so much more history to look back on to see where we are now. I don't think I would have asked it to happen any other way. I mean, maybe the Wii U could have sold more, but that's fine. The failure of the Wii U led to the success of the Switch, didn't it? Speaking of the Switch, game consoles themselves can be a marvel to look at, for anyone who cares at least, and can communicate a lot to whoever uses them. Nintendo has always been geared towards kids, and despite that, I find them to be the superior of the big 3. Their consoles rarely speak mature or professional, besides like the GameCube maybe, and are oftentimes full of gimmicks, like the Wii Remote, or the Joy-Cons. Xbox and PlayStation, on the other hand, always have more of a mature feel to them. Although they do have a young audience too, it's just less apparent than Nintendo. And of course, each console brand has their own line of exclusive games. For Nintendo, well, you probably already know what Nintendo has. It's things like Mario, Zelda, Splatoon, Animal Crossing, stuff like that. On PlayStation, you have games like God of War, Ratchet & Clank, The Last of Us, and on Xbox, yes, of course. Things like Halo and Gears and this game. Wrapped tightly inside a plastic case waiting for your sweaty consumer hands to open it. Which brings me to the next topic, game cases. Or boxes is how it was in the olden days. The video game case is a very well-known type of plastic for anyone who's even vaguely familiar with video games. They all work in about the same way. You got your box art, inserts, and of course, the game. Even the video game itself has gone through many changes throughout the years, from big fat cartridges to mini discs to tiny cartridges to regular discs to digital games, which are the bane of my existence. I am dreading an all-digital future of games. Seriously, how hard is it to do this? Open case, put game in, close case. Is that so hard? As you can see, I love playing video games, maybe even a bit too much. But do you know what I love just as much as playing them? Collecting them, of course. Collecting games, it's basically just hoarding, but with a nicer name. Another great way to pass the time, though. Of course, game collecting wasn't always as big of a fad as it is today. At least, I think it wasn't. I mean, I don't know, I wasn't alive 20 years ago. But whether it was a big fad 20 years ago or not, it doesn't really matter, because someone was doing it back then. How do I know? Because there's always someone who's gonna do something before it was cool. Nowadays, though, game collecting is all the rage. There are more YouTubers that I can count that make YouTube videos about game collecting and video games. That kind of sounds like someone I know. But I am kind of surprised that I, out of all people, got into game collecting. It's just such an interesting and kind of strange hobby that requires a lot of money and a lot of space if you plan to go hardcore. Personally, I could see myself acquiring a big load of garbage over the years and then repenting of my sins not long after, but I could never see myself going so hardcore to the point where I have to own complete sets for a console or collecting every single piece of shovelware garbage that I see. And let me tell you, hardcore collectors have lots of shovelware in their libraries. Which brings me to another topic, shovelware. The games which are bad and poor quality, and oftentimes low budget. These are the types of games that every little kid at your local Walmart is attracted to, and every hardcore gamer eventually reaches that point where they have all the games that they legitimately care about, and now have no other option but to buy these junk games to expand their collection. But I don't ever intend to collect to that extent. I value quality over quantity for the most part. Sure, not every game lives up to your hopes and dreams, and one time I did buy a game that I heard was bad, and the only reason I bought it was because I wanted to see for myself how truly bad it was. And let me tell you, it delivered. The game was Wii Music. But aside from Wii Music, first-party developers usually aren't to blame for shovelware. Not even most third-party developers are to blame. However, there is one specific type of third-party developer that usually is the one that shovels out these pieces of shovelware. And that is the indie developer. Now, that's just a joke. Indie games are cool. So, assuming you're still here means I have your attention and you like listening to random kids on YouTube drone on and on about video games, and you might be wondering to yourself, so, how do I start a game collection? Well, for starters, I wouldn't advise it, but if you must know, I'll play you a little clip from one of Scott the Woz's videos, because I don't think anyone explains it better than him.
I just do this because I love games, but for some reason, many people look at collecting as if it's a skill.
Like, if anybody ever asked me, oh wow, how did you achieve all this? I spent money.
Do you really think this was all strategized? No, I just bought games and didn't sell them for 7 years.
Yep, that's about it. To start a game collection, you need money, and a good amount of it too. I myself have a small weekend job, and that's how I acquire the sufficient funds to support this strange hobby of mine. And where do you go to buy these games? Well, my first choice is to go to a local video game store. They can have cheap prices, and you can also support a small business, but they don't always have everything you're looking for. That's when you head onto your computer and start surfing the internet for the best deals on places like eBay or Facebook Marketplace. That's a surefire way to almost guarantee you'll always find what you're looking for. And if you emerge victorious and end up with a new game that you've always wanted, congrats. Just do that 1,000 more times and you'll have yourself a game collection. And don't worry about what people say, whether they say you should collect like this or avoid these types of games, or you need to buy this if you want to have the full collecting experience and stuff like that. You don't need to do anything. It's a hobby. Collect what you want, how you want it. Just don't go wasting your money. Collect things that are valuable and important to you. I'm sure somewhere on this shelf of plastic I have a game that I value a lot, but you might not think too much of. And because I know someone's gonna say it, yes, this is a pretty small collection for game collection standards, but it's a start, okay? It's a start. Collecting's a pretty cool and special hobby, though. I mean, only a few people out there have the guts to say to their friends, "Hey, I have a shelf filled with plastic garbage." But I like having a shelf filled with plastic garbage. I like game collecting, if you can't tell. There are so many consoles to collect for from so many different generations. And there are different genres of games too. You got things like platformers, to Metroidvanias, roguelikes, and RPGs. The list goes on and on. And most importantly of all, what every collector desires, arguably more important than collecting plastic. I know I said collect how you want, but really, your collection won't be complete without this one crucial thing. Cardboard. Yes, cardboard. More specifically, boxes. The best way to identify a collector is by seeing the amount of boxes they have on their shelf. Seriously, some hardcore collectors could have entire rooms dedicated just to their boxes alone. And I'm running out of space, so if anyone has a spare shelf they don't need anymore, I'd be happy if you sent it my way. My address is... So, to wrap things up, collecting is a pretty solid hobby if your main goal in life is to live in financial ruin. But jokes aside, yeah, that's about all I have to say. I already shared my thoughts. You know what I think about games. Video games are cool, and collecting's cool. So, yeah, that's about it. Alright, that's gonna do it for this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, all that. If you want, I'm not going to force you. And see you in the next one. Goodbye. Jesus loves you, and yep, see you in the next one.